Hey April, it's Bryn here, and I am going to do my presentation on Nick and Jess from New Girl. It's a comedy show. I'm going to try to be as brief as possible. Sorry if I go over time. I'm just trying to get all the material in. In regards to the video, I'm going to start with the video clip, and I'm going to just like quickly go through it and just highlight the parts that I think are like important to kind of note in it.
Look, I know you're really angry, and you have a right to be.
I have the right to be? I mean, why do you feel like you need to fix me? It's like you think you know better.
I might know better than you. Did you start a corporation?
Is it Fat Face?
Think so.
Yeah.
Look, you're getting taxed like crazy.
Well, that's because I thought I was filing a patent.
Fat Face is an invention?
Kind of. In its intention, it was supposed...
Are you a lifeguard?
No! That is a false certificate, yes? But it's mine, okay? And it's private.
I'm sorry I went through your damn box, but I was just trying to help you,
So
Nick.
maybe I'll try to help you.
My night peanuts.
There shouldn't be sand peanuts in that.
Pins, not Bobby's pins.
What is this?
Yarn.
What are you, knitting a mansion? Oh, look at this. What do we have here? A bunch of beat-off old sacks.
My vintage person. Is to be covered in gems?
Change it! This one is changing.
Stop! That's disrespectful!
Yes.
Nick, stop it!
No! This is the grossest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I got that for a nickel.
That's disgusting.
You're just trying to get a rise out of me.
Oh my God!
I've gotten a lot of compliments. Stop it! Look, I like you the way you are. I'm just asking you to grow a little.
Are we ever going to get to the point where you stop working on me? Or instead of changing me, maybe once, Jess, see it my way.
Well, you're always crazy and illegal.
This is me. Take it or leave it.
Okay, so that's the clip. So I'm going to get back into the presentation. Okay, so coming from that clip, I would say that the presenting, so I don't think the content really matters in this particular case. It's more of just like he was getting mad at her because he had a box where he put a lot of his like his bills and responsibility basically that you need to do as an adult, and she went in and kind of like, because of her anxiety and because how much she cares about him and how much she wants to help him, she kind of just like dealt with it and used the money that he got from his inheritance to kind of use it to take care of all those bills. So interesting. But what I would say is that from that incident, yes, like that could be something they talk about, like setting those boundaries, like, you know, but also like I think the presenting problem would be lack of communication between the two has led to this like relentless arguing, because like this isn't just the one time that they do. They get in these constant arguments and then nothing's like ever like really achieved. Like it's just like, as you see, like he's throwing purses out the window and she's like just really not listening to him. So Nick can no longer tolerate Jess constantly interfering in his life and does not feel respected. And then Jess feels like when she wants to help, but it's impossible for him because he doesn't allow her to help him or support him in any way, and she doesn't make it known. So she has to help him in the only way that she knows is possible, or the only way that she can do it is by like interfering or like doing what she thinks is right. So I think I want to get more into it in my like assessment. So I'm just saying that this would be like their presenting problem that they would come in with. And the couple has never been to therapy before. So just a really brief biopsychosocial. Nick is male, white, he has his bachelor's degree, he's a bartender manager, no major mental health concerns or physical concerns, he does have social support, and there is allegations or like there is suspicions around his alcohol problem. Obviously this is a comedy show, so they're not going to get into the depths of like his coping mechanism, but it is seen throughout that he kind of utilizes alcohol to deal with his stress. She's female, heterosexual, white, middle class. I would say more middle class than working. Like I think that's her background. She's a teacher and now a vice principal. She does have her master's degree, and there's no major mental health or physical health concerns, and she does have social support. So in their family of origin influences, I think there's like so much, but I just really wanted to highlight the ones that I think and like how it plays out into my conceptualization, which this is my conceptualization. So this is part of it. So I think he's the older sibling of two boys, which is interesting because he has this responsible role. And in this response, and I think that's like such a different reality for Jess because she sees that he is responsible, and maybe that plays into why she thinks like she kind of constantly pressures him because she sees the potential for him, but like it just doesn't function in their relationships because she doesn't allow him. So older sibling of two boys, he was the responsible one. His brother's a little bit socially inept, and his brother's married and has kids, but like Nick always kind of had to like guide his brother and kind of save his brother. Not willingly though, like he was like forced into that, I think, by his mom and like the enmeshment that they like have. There's definitely chronic anxiety within their family, and I think Nick's still responding to that. So he has a strained relationship with his father. His father is deceased, but I think his dad was kind of like he described his dad as being like a con man, and he never really felt that support from him or that love, and like I think that like leads him to feel like unsuccessful in his own life because he didn't have like that male, that positive male influence that like I don't know. The parents had conflict. There was infidelity issues. Like the mom, I think she was very open, and there weren't really like rigid boundaries. I think it was very diffused, and because Nick knew a lot about what was going on with his parents. So with the infidelity in this, and even like she just does very like inappropriate things around her children, and then there's this enmeshment, and because he needs to protect his mom, and he's very close with his mom, and he loves his mom. So youngest of two girls, she was the functional oldest. Her mom often promoted that, Jess, you need to rescue your sister, and even into her adulthood, she's still constantly like feeling that she needs to feel that role with her like sister, like functioning for her. Almost like always rescuing her, and that's like almost expected of her from her parents as well. Her parents are divorced, and I think this really hit her hard, and I think that's why she strives so much for cohesion, why she wants to resolve things, why like she constantly needs that she's on the same page with her partner, because I think she's fearing that in a sense of like, I don't want to be like my parents, I don't want to separate, I don't want this to happen, and maybe this is like kind of coming out in her relationship. She often triangulated herself in the conflict. Like she wanted to fix her parents' relationship so much. She wanted them to be together so much that she would even concoct plans they weren't aware of to kind of get them back together. And again, like to try to fix, to help. And that's kind of like what she does with Nick. So on an individual level, I think Nick is like a depressed individual. He experiences definitely like the lows of lows. He angers easily. He has some self-esteem issues, as you can see. Like he doesn't feel confident. He doesn't feel competent in his life. And I think that like it's difficult for him. He is avoidant. Obviously, he has a box where he puts bills and taxes and things that he just wants to avoid out of life. And like he likes to avoid conflict as well. He can be irresponsible, but I think underneath it all, he's very a loyal, caring, sweet person. Jess has very high expectations of herself, and that translates into her being a perfectionist. So she's like anxious about like, I don't think she's like, I don't think she views herself incompetent. I just think that she likes things a certain way, and she likes her life to go a certain way. And if it doesn't fit that plan, then she has anxiety over that. And she can be stubborn. She's a little bit idealistic. She's very expressive, and she's a caretaker. And I think this is all how they function as individuals, and that like complements each other in a way that could be like very unhealthy. And that kind of goes into the relationship issues, right? Those complementary roles, and that goes into like the approach that I would want to do. So Nick and Jess have different styles in handling conflict, and this leads to their like unhealthy communication patterns. I don't want to say dysfunctional, I just want to say unhealthy. Like I said, Nick is like very conflict avoidant, and Jess is like very resolution oriented because of her family of origin issues and his family of origin issues, and like that's all like interconnected, and then just how they view things on an individual level. They have difficulties in compromising, but I think if you think about the EFT thing, it's like this like pursuer distancer, like Jess is like constantly pursuing, and Nick is like distancing because like Jess like wants to feel like closer to him and wants that not intimacy, but like she wants to feel closer, she wants to feel like she can help him, and he's like backing off because he's just like, I need my space, but I don't necessarily know how to tell you that I need space without it coming off as like anger or escalated or like, you know what I mean? Like, so he doesn't know how to kind of like experience like her in a way where they can be like equal, they can have that distance, but they can also be separate. I don't know. That's kind of how I'm envisioning it. Um, and so I think that the conflict escalates due to that avoidance and due to her persistence of it. And I also think that there's like a power struggle which is influenced by contextual variables. Also, I think like the gender role issue. I think they don't define the binary like gender roles because I think Jess is like the more competent partner and she's like more the provider. And I don't want to say like he's incompetent. I'm just saying like that like in societal she would be like the provider, the person that, you know, he's like more dependent on her, I guess. Um, and typically it's like the reverse. So I don't know how that affects like his ability to articulate himself. And obviously like some of her actions like affect him as like, you know, being a man, what that means, his own masculinity. And I think a lot of her, what she really wants, out of a partner is influences by her social location, like, you know, her education. And she feels that like he should value the same things and what, yeah. So that's all like contextual variables, and I think I can tease that out even more, but I'm just gonna keep going with kind of like how that plays in their relationship issues. She attests to like accepting Nick, but I think it's like her actions say otherwise, like her interference, her thing to think that she knows best what's right for Nick, um, say otherwise, that she, you know, maybe this isn't what he wants, and maybe like that's a difference like that she just needs to like kind of accept. I don't know. Um, and so I think that comes off to Nick, like she's constantly trying to fix him. Um, and like she views it kind of like as she's trying to help. Nick struggles with vulnerability and just wants to feel closer to him. And again, I said that pursuer distancer if I'm looking from the EFT kind of model, but I'm not gonna do the EFT model. I'm just showing like what could kind of transpire within their relationship issues. So, moving from friendship to romantic relationship, which I just want to highlight quickly because I think that like sets with the boundary issue and like their identity as a couple, because like they came from, you know, they met basically by being roommates, and then like romantic feelings for each other progressed, and they tried to like avoid it at all costs, but it consequently, you know, it manifests, and they, you know, entered into this romantic relationship. And I think they tried to talk about it, but it was just so hard. And so I think that they fall into these like complementary roles that they did in their friendship, and their friendship was like always kind of a little bit more and a little bit unhealthy in the way that they would communicate. So I think that's just like their natural tendency. So they haven't really established themselves as a couple, and I think that's like one of the major issues. So that kind of plays into why I would pick structural couple therapy. So after viewing like everything, I feel like I think they need a more integrative approach, definitely with the family of origin and the contextual variables as well. Like that needs to be teased out, but I think this is beneficial to restructuring and like their initial of that lack of communication that has become like so unhealthy and on how they relate to one another. So according to Mnuchin, structure refers to an organization of interconnected lives governed by strict unspoken rules. So the mechanism of change in structural couple therapy is the reduction of a new relational experience for clients. So they need to experience themselves differently in the way that they relate, because they've related in this capacity for so long. So I also like structural couple therapy because it's a here and now approach, and I think they're a very here and now couple. I don't know how much they would, I think they would benefit from looking into the past, definitely from like their differentiation. Like I think that there needs to be work done around that, definitely influenced by family origin or contextual, but like I also think here and now, because like that's what they're more focused on, and you know, also like it's a strength based. So, the way that I envision this is like it's kind of that when there's differences, what happens is they have to fall into these like complementary roles, and like the complementary roles that I kind of see here is the teacher-student dynamic. So that's kind of what I see. So in structural couple therapy, their view is that the couple system, to achieve like homeostasis, maintains itself, resisting change within a certain range, and maintaining familiar patterns for as long as possible. So that's kind of what is going on there. Also in structural, like either the couple is functioning in these diffuse boundaries or like rigid boundaries, and I think it's more diffuse because there's like no identity as a couple. Like I said, that they're moving into this like we're a romantic relationship now. And then they also have like ties with their roommates who get involved in their conflict, and they triangulate people, and like obviously from their family of origin, that's like how conflict was handled. You bring like a third person in, and that like kind of transpires, and so they're not really like engaging in like meaningful dialogue or like really conversing in a way, and they're just kind of like responding to the other, like throwing things out the window or just like not even validating their brother's point. And I think like stress definitely affects their ability to function differently. So I think setting boundaries is like huge for them, and because I don't think that was ever like established in their friendship, so they just are continuing to do that. So I think what would be possible interventions to elicit some change within their dynamics is like enactment. I think this couple is prone to enactment, like you can see like from that clip. So like I could think it would probably happen a lot spontaneously, but also like I think it's important for them to experiencing that enactment and like their interactions, and then like highlighting on how those complementary roles like play out, that teacher student kind of vibe, or the overfunctioning, underfunctioning, which like I don't think Jess is like aware of. I think Nick has some understanding, but like I think really formulating that more so that she can see like how that violates his boundary, and then also like doesn't empower him. It like kind of almost disempowers him the way that she approaches him. So yeah, I think that's important to point out. And then like identifying the triangles and the way that they're not like, because Jess might think, oh yeah, like I like resolution, but at the same time like you're bringing other people into the conflict. So that too, I think reframing is really helpful, and that would be really helpful for Nick, because like I think through, the enactments, highlighting, and then reframing and restructuring, I think he could kind of see, if you reframe her like constantly wanting to interfere, it's like constantly, I think, trying to help you, but also like because she cares about you so much and she wants to help you and she wants to stay together, like, it could help him like see her side. But I think the reframing could help Jess see Nick's side of the thing, and that could also be like experienced in the enactment. The clinical challenges, obviously there's clinical challenges within any, model that you do use. I think within structural, sometimes like you have to stay like strictly to it. So I don't know if I would strictly stay to it the whole time with this couple. I think that would depend upon like my assessment of like, do I think this is like effective for them? So I think I would want to take a more integrative approach, because I think there's like family of origin and those contextual influences that I don't know necessarily if structural like really touches upon like the couple one. So Nick and Jess can be resistant and avoidant towards change, and like I'm saying, that homeostasis underneath it all, like they like did achieve that, even though it's like kind of like unhealthy, but I think it's just very familiar for them to interact in those like complementary roles to one another. Resisting the urge to involve roommates in the conflict. I mean, they live with other people. They are very close with these people. So I think that will be a challenge. Defense mechanisms could be a barrier as well, because like there's a lot of defense mechanisms that you like humors use, the drinking, avoidance. Like there's just so many that could like really interfere with them being able to, and that's why I'm saying more integrative, because like I think that on some individual level you need to know, what you're doing as well. But this is more like in structural, it's more about your transactions with each other. So, but also ultimately, if I'm going from this structural approach, I think strengths will help stabilize couples and move them towards the change, because I think a lot of what is really interesting about their relationship is that, yeah, they like fight and they're very like opposite, but like they're similar in its extent, because like they're similar about what they value and how they value each other, and their friendship's important, and their loyalty to one another, and just like they really deeply care about each other. And I just think that sometimes it doesn't come across that way because of the way that they respond to each other, and the way that they respond to each other's differences. So I think reframing and restructuring would just be like more beneficial as what I'm seeing them now. I mean, maybe if I get into that assessment and I see other things, I could address, but that's kind of where I'm at. So if there's any additional questions, please let me know. And if anything's like wrong with the video, please let me know. Thank you so much. And that's my presentation.